Thanks, everyone. Happy November 11th. We're very excited about what we're covering today. We have a lot of materials to cover. And so sit back and relax. And this will be recorded. So the whole goal of today is to talk about how ControlCenter, built on WebCenter, is a critical platform to be leveraged for your organization to handle and manage both your quality documents and quality management system, and serve as a platform to curate your content so that you could eventually also deploy an enterprise content RAG solution. So the agenda will be focused on, we'll just do quick intros. We'll cover a little bit of background on regulated, curated quality content. We'll spend a lot of time on ControlCenter and give you a real demonstration of the many use cases of ControlCenter. And then we will cover a little bit about enterprise content RAG, or retrieval augmented generation. So a couple slides just quickly on Fishbowl. We've been in business for over 25 years. We've always focused on helping companies solve costly and frustrating knowledge sharing problems. We have offices throughout North America and in EMEA, and we are the largest provider of solutions in the WebCenter ecosystem, covering consulting. So everything from custom consulting projects to doing upgrades and migrations to Oracle's cloud marketplace. We also offer WebCenter training as an offering. We do generative AI consulting to help a lot of organizations. We've already gotten about 8 customers in production with enterprise content RAG solutions. We have a suite of add-on products to enhance WebCenter to meet the specific needs and specific use cases of customers. Our most recent release is a direct integration between Microsoft Teams and WebCenter. We also are doing a lot of integrations with Copilot and content in WebCenter. And then we also have a managed services and support offering. So today, the whole goal of this is to give you a little understanding around all of the different ways that organizations have regulated or compliance type documents, and how you can better leverage ControlCenter to easily manage that information in your environment. Additionally, a lot of our customers are using the same thing to do knowledge management, because critical curated knowledge within your organization is important to go ahead and onboard new people, to drive more efficiencies, and then to handle the retirement wave that continues. We'll cover details on how ControlCenter works, and then we'll cover a little bit on enterprise content RAG. It goes without saying that 95% of the organizations out there, and I always cover this slide, have some Microsoft in their environment. So without a doubt, everyone's, almost with the exception of a couple percentage, have Microsoft as a key platform, and they have multiple different repositories. We're not here talking about those, the OneDrives, the SharePoint sites, or your legacy file shares. We're here to go focus on where WebCenter really fits best, is in curating and having a trusted set of knowledge and information within your organization. It applies for organizations. Many organizations have actual regulated requirements that they have, whether it be an ISO requirements for a lot of manufacturing and other high-tech organizations. Many organizations in construction, they have a whole set of construction OSHA-related requirements. Many organizations have like a safety quality food standard if you're in a food service business. So virtually every organization has some sorts of content requirements and auditing requirements for their documentation. Even Fishbowl, as small as we are, we have disaster recovery plans, business continuity plans, all of those that require an annual review or biannual review. We need to have an audit history of who approved it and who's seen it. So every organization has use cases for this. So again, whether you're in government or your manufacturer or your construction, you all have it, and you all see that when you go look at your work procedures, standard operating procedures, change requests, Those are all common compliance use cases that, again, virtually every organization has. And that expands on to like quality control. If you're a specific manufacturer, everyone on your shop floor has to go ahead and have their procedures. Safety, if you're in construction or field service, you're going to have standard safety manuals that are reviewed, just like in field operations or HR, all that information that helps ensure that your employees deliver safe service. Now, switching a little bit to the knowledge management side, as organizations are going through transitions, whether, this is an example from one of our customers where, 8% of their employees are expected to retire by 2027. 43% of their new hires are under 35. So how do you help them understand what needs to get done? Same thing, 41% of them have less than 2 years tenure. So you have this huge influx of people that have all the knowledge, and you have this other influx of the new hires, and how do they know how to do their work? So it's critical to get all of that information and the knowledge captured and curated. So this one organization, prior to implementing ControlCenter, they had documents like I showed in that first one. They had them in file sharers, they had them in SharePoint sites, they had them in OneDrive, they had their content all over. And that multiplied as they were a global organization, and they had different satellite offices that would then also download and keep their copies of the procedures. There was no ownership. The content was out of date. No one had an idea which version was the accurate version. So it became a big knowledge challenge, but also a big compliance challenge. So we deployed ControlCenter there to handle, these were some of those key use cases of what are all my corporate knowledge sources, whether that be templates, forms, policies, and procedures. Give me all my manuals, whether it's your QA manual, your employee handbook, or else all of your legal and operating documents. So handling those and streamlining those drove a significant productivity impact for their business. So how does ControlCenter do it? It provides that single point of interface to synchronize the information from, the WebCenter repository back to the documents. It also will include features like watermarking and revision histories and putting metadata on it. It's critical in safety, where you can have automatic notifications. So as a new safety procedure comes out, you can automatically schedule notifications for people. You can ensure that people are reviewing those and auditing that. And you also, on the field operations side, because the ControlCenter has been written from scratch as a responsive platform, you can use it across every device. Yeah. So this organization, over 3 years, they ended up with 1,200 users, 2,700 documents managed, 50 manuals. And, the feedback from their employees were, the most intuitive, easiest to use application that they deployed for knowledge management, which historically has been a challenge. So we'll jump into a little bit about the platform, and then we'll jump into the demo. So a critical capability in the foundation of ControlCenter is the power of Oracle WebCenter. WebCenter has been Oracle's enterprise content platform for 30 years. It's supported on-premise or in the cloud, and it's got a very flexible model to handle many different departments with flexible metadata models, very robust version control and workflow processes, extremely granular security options. And for those of you who have Oracle, but we also have many customers that don't have Oracle, it integrates very natively within eBusiness Suite, JD Edwards, PeopleSoft, or Fusion. So it really provides a full suite of content services, from creating, capturing, classifying, retention, and records management and archiving. And again, serving that through the rest of your ecosystem. What is ControlCenter? ControlCenter is a product that Fishbowl's built on that runs right on top of WebCenter. It's a built with full component architecture and supported by and authorized by the Oracle support team. So it's an add-on solution that provides a dedicated interface, and it really extends the functionality to be focused on the use cases around document control, knowledge management, compliance, auditing, and records management. So I'm going to be jumping into a demo, and what I'm going to cover would be, I'll be playing like two different roles. One role is the end user trying to search and find my information. And the second role will be someone who's involved in the management of that content. So the workflows, the reviews, the curation. So that's what I will be covering now. Okay. Everyone see my screen? So first, what you'll see, this is WebCenter or ControlCenter on top of WebCenter. Behind the scenes is the old legacy WebCenter interface. ControlCenter is just a simple click away, and most organizations have it as default. As I mentioned, it's a responsive platform. So as I go shrink my screen, so if I were going to be on a phone, I would see a phone experience. If I'm on a tablet, it's designed for a tablet, or if I have a full screen, it gives me more surface area to work with. Within this, as a user, the first thing as a user, you always want to do is, how do I find information? A lot of people are used to searching, so we have multiple search options. So you can do kind of the built-in database search. We also have semantic smart searching, and we have AI assistants all built in. So search is one very robust way to do it. The other way that people still have a legacy experience with is browsing. Okay, so we have multiple ways to browse. The browsing that we have developed for this is all based on the content's metadata structure. So that's the different tags on your content. So you can have a dynamic navigation to allow you to go view and find information based on attributes set on your files. Okay, so this is one way I'm sorting and filtering by a doc type. I could also go sort by a department. So in this case, I'm going to go search by manufacturing information. As I navigate down, I'll see I have manufacturing information. I have different regions. So if I just picked a particular region, I can drill down. I also have the ability to search within this. So now we've enabled this to search only content that the text within the content that you've filtered on. So if I do a search, that'll bring back the procedures that have the aerial lift in it. Okay. From there, as a user, the first thing I typically want to do is I'll want to go view the file. Now, when I view the file, so again, I'm as the end user going to search and navigate and find. I'll go ahead and find the file. ControlCenter automatically integrates the information from that document or from the compliance database right into the native file. So I automatically know when this file was released, when the last update was, what the revision is, in other departments. So that's automatically integrating the information, the attributes from within WebCenter and ControlCenter right into the native document. So when you get audited, the auditor knows exactly what's happening. Okay. There's a number of menus over here. These are all configurable based on the roles. So I am logged in as an administrator, so I see everything, but your normal users, you can configure what values you want them to have. Okay. With this, I have the ability to go, if I wanted to go do some inspection and understand when did this procedure get released, I can go click on the information. It presents me with the metadata or the library card on that information. Let's get that hand. Okay. So I can see the metadata on that. Okay. I can also see all the revision history of this file. So I see all the different revisions that have taken place over that. If I had any associated documents, I could have other like associated forms or whatnot. I could have linked documents if there were other operating procedures or other inspection checklists that are related to it, I could do that. You can have additional links and references. So in this one, I have embedded hyperlinks in the document, and we automatically extract all of those references and track those so that you can go ahead and ensure the quality of your information is up to date. And when I go look at the history, this is what's critical for auditing, is I can go see, when did this file get checked in? What are the steps in the review process? So I can see first step was, this is a 2-step review. It was approved by reviewer 1 with some comments that it was approved. I could also see step 2 where it's approved. So as an end user, if I needed to go see this information, I have at my fingertips access to that history. And then again, when I'm done, I can go back and just view the document. So now I know what I need to do. At this point, I could also go ahead and say, let me go use AI. So we've integrated enterprise content reg right within this. So at this point, I could just go ahead and say, can you generate a summary of this? And we have a number of international people on the call. I'll just say, generate a summary of that in German. So now this is integrated. In this case, we're using Azure OpenAI. So, but you can use Oracle's Gen AI platform. You can really use any on-premise or cloud environment to go ahead and process a RAG approach with. So from there, I could also do another request, which is, now I'm just going to go ahead and say in English, what are the greatest areas of concern when operating? It'll now automatically understand everything in there and use all the content from this individual document and give me a summary of what I need. Finally, if I wanted to, I could say, create a training plan for this procedure. So if I do that, that will go ahead and create a training plan for this procedure. And I could further prompt it and ask it to give it more details and schedules and do a test. So there's a lot of other things you can do. Really, the limit is your imagination. Okay, so now that's basically how the end user searches, whether it's through a text search, through a semantic search, or through a navigational structure. Okay. Now I'm going to switch hats, and now I'm going to go ahead and be a process owner or administrator. So when I come in here, I go look at my landing page, and again, I am logged as an administrator, so I see a lot more than a normal user would. But as an administrator, as a user, one thing I can do is I have an ability to customize this interface for my specific needs. So if I have some of these tiles that I want to see reordered, I can go do that. The administrator also has the ability to do it, but I, as a user, still have some controls to meet my needs. I can also add additional widgets, and these widgets are personalized, or your administrator could go create custom widgets. Like one organization created a widget that will integrate with their backend operating analytical data. Another one is using it to integrate right with Oracle eBusiness Suite to find some order information. So a lot of things are possible based on kind of your business use case. As I get in here, the first thing I look at might be, show me the documents that I need to do something with. So I've got a number of tiles that can give me that information. So this is the status summary where it says I have 3 documents that are past review. I have 6 documents that are scheduled for review, of which 3 of those are passed. And then I have 6 documents that are also in workflow. I have accommodating tiles for those as well. So I've got a document review tab. I've got a schedule review tab, and I've got some other capabilities like picking my favorites, picking my popular documents. Oh, okay. So the first thing I'll do is I will just go ahead and review a file that's in workflow and show you how I can go ahead and approve that. So within this, these are the documents I've got to review. Any one of these I can go ahead and click on. I can go ahead and see a little bit of information on it, or I can go in here and click on the document review pane. Okay. So in this case, here's my review pane. This is a procedure that I need to review. As the document owner or the person assigned to this review, I can go click on the file. I can see it's in review. If I was interested and I wanted to compare it, I could go ahead and compare it to the prior version so that I would know exactly what's changing. Okay. Or if I wanted to compare it to 2 versions old, I could compare to a previous version. Right. Then from there, I could also go ahead and oftentimes people, as it's going through a workflow process, I could have a discussion on it. So if this was a multi-step process, I could go ahead and say, can you validate? So I could validate against my safety standards and I could have a threaded discussion that occurs. I could also go look at the workflow information. So if I wanted to go see what step is this at, who's involved. So this basically tells me it's a 3-step process. I'm at this reviewer step and I'm the only person waiting to review it. So from here, if I wanted to as well, and I want to make a change right from within here, I could just say edit in Office Online. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and I'll update this and I'll say, so I'm just going to go add something at the beginning of the summary. I will go ahead and make a change. And I'm still looking at, as this refreshes, now it shows me that I'm now reviewing the version that I made the change to. Once I'm done, I can say approve for review. I can hit approve. That document is now going into the next step of the process. Or actually, this one was only in a single step. So this one now is automatically going to go ahead and get released. And if I go back to my dashboard, this is the scissor lift safety operating procedure. I'll go ahead and see recent documents is this. Here's the recent workflow items. Here's the scissor lift procedure. It is actually just getting converted. So part of the process within WebCenter is that document will go ahead and we take information from the document. So you'll notice here, right in the content information of that, I'd extracted metadata or text from that form or document and put it in metadata. Okay. It will also go ahead and update the headers and the footers of this document. And it will then go ahead and release that document. So now if I just did a refresh, so now you'll see this is a released version of that document. It has that information in it. It said when it was now the updated release date, and now I'm at revision 3. Right? So all of that information would show up right in this audit history where it just got released. So that was a immediately released file. So again, now from an auditor standpoint, I know exactly what happened, where it's happened, and what else is going on. Right? I also have the ability to go ahead and view the access history. So some of the organizations we have, they need to go ahead and ensure they know who has viewed this file. So every version that gets tracked, anytime someone clicks on the file, it automatically tracks who's viewed it. So if you from a regulatory environment need to be able to track that history, that is all fully covered. All right. So that is basically a quick edit and a review of a document. The other thing you'll notice about these documents in workflow, okay? So if I came in and I said, look at the other documents that are in workflow that require my attention, it was 6 before, now it's 5. One thing to note is as it's going through the process, if I go look at the file, we've incorporated watermarks so that there's not a chance that anyone could go look at a file and see a file and know that and think that it was released. So watermarks are configurable based on the state or the step, and they hold through throughout the whole process. The last thing I can do is I will go ahead and start one more editing process for a document. So in this case, I have this machine tune or machine tool operating process. During this, I can go, oh, 1 second. I want items in workflow. I'll go look at this operating procedure. With this operating procedure, I can go look at this. If I want to go edit this in Office Online, I can do that. Make my change, save that file, and it will continue through the workflow process as well. When I go look at that file through the workflow, I also have the ability to go ahead and and ask the process to go ahead and make any recommendations on how I can use an AI assistant to evaluate this for safety. So now I can use it, and some of our organizations are using this to look at their current procedures. They will take some of the new ISO procedures that are available, or ISO procedures or CMM procedures, and it can go ahead and evaluate this procedure against latest standards that you have and make a recommendation on it. Okay. So, and that will just continue on and give you recommendations that you can then work to incorporate into your updated version of the procedure. All right. So that'll continue on, based on what's involved. So it's got a lot of recommending improvements. So it analyzed it first. It'll then recommend the improvements. And what you'll see later is our Gen AI integration with WebCenter is extremely flexible in that it allows you to use different LLMs to meet different use cases. So, but I'll leave it at that until later. Okay, so now there's my procedure. I could have some recommendations, and off I go. So there you've now, I guess the last thing is, as a user or a process owner, I can go ahead and add a procedure whenever I want. We have options to go ahead and say I could add a procedure from a file, or from an corporate standard perspective, I can go create from a template. In this case, I could generate a template calling it motor lift operation. I can pick these are the metadata values. I can assign a review date, fill in other information I want, locations, put in users. So when I want to go look at who is going to be required to approve this, I can fill in one or more people here. If I had any associated or superseded or linked documents, I could do that. And now I'll hit a check-in, and then you'll see there's a motor lift operation document. So this document is checked in. Okay, what'll happen is this document now gets checked in. It gets assigned a index, a metadata value, or a unique content identifier. It will then convert, and then I will be sent an email saying, here is my motor lift operation procedure. So let me go review that. So it came in blank, but you can see that this document ID was automatically assigned. The title came right from the metadata, the departments, all of that are all fully automated right from within the Control Center platform. I can set the review date for whenever I want it to be reviewed. I'll just leave it at the 28th. And then I could go ahead here and make an edit. So I could just fill in some editing information. Make a change, hit exit. Obviously you're going to fill in significantly more information, but again, there you can, that information's in there. Again, it's, as I said before, it's at draft. And now this is going through workflow. If I come back to the Control Center interface, I'll go look at the items requiring the documents in workflow or the documents requiring my attention. I can click on this motor lift operation. I'll see here's the document. And now I would just walk through the normal process that you've just seen me do of approving it and sending it on through the workflow. Okay. So that hopefully provided you an overview of Control Center from a user standpoint and Control Center from a content or process owner standpoint. The next portion will be around reporting. A lot of customers from a compliance standpoint have a lot of information requirements around reporting. So we have a whole bunch of reporting options. In this case, content access is one of the common ones. You have the ability to filter on certain criteria, like just say, I only want to see by a particular user or by a particular type. In this case, I'll just search, and it then shows me every time someone accessed this file or each individual file. So now you have an auditability to say, show me who's accessed it and when. So content access reports are extremely important. Embedded links. A lot of our customers are using WebCenter and tracking links between documents or to other sites. And oftentimes those sites break. So we go ahead and allow you to report on those links. So we'll extract that out of the file. We'll report it in a database, and then we'll say, is it an internal link or an external link? And does the link work or not? So we'll give you auditing and reporting on that. And then you can create a lot of other standard reports. So if you wanted to go see, for example, all the reports that were set up for Q4, any other number of things. So that's some of the reporting that's there. There's a lot more that you could do. You can also go ahead at any point and export all of this content to Excel. So any search criteria you can export and use that for reporting as well. Now I'll transition to the last piece, which is the administrator's portion. So as Control Center's been around for about 8 years, it continues to get enhanced administration capability. So it's got a full suite of configurations that you can provide, anywhere from configuring the application, the permissions for the application, the browsing configuration, that would be this navigation over here, the dashboard, how that's configured, integration with generative AI or other third-party search tools. You can administer templates. When I created that new operating procedure, that was managed by the templates, or watermarking, kind of as I showed. So there's a full suite of administration capabilities within the platform. Okay. So that really covers the highlight on the core Control Center capabilities. Are there any questions for the team before I move on? Okay.
Yeah, so maybe talk a bit about what controls are in place to prevent hallucination in the AI results, if that's applicable.
Okay. Can I take that call? Can I take that question in the next phase?
Sure.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely. And then wondering how differences in comparison are shown in the documents. If you're comparing, I assume versions of documents.
Yep.
How are the differences shown?
Yep. So we use the built-in Microsoft Word doc compare capabilities. So they come back with a red line version where you can then see your typical doc compare like you would if you downloaded the two files and did it within your own Microsoft Word doc, it does that automatically for you.
Okay, great. And we've got some other answered questions already in the Q&A, but as we're going, if anyone has other questions, pop them in the QA and we'll either answer them live or respond.
Thank you, Krissa. And so, as I mentioned, ControlCenter has been around for a number of years. The most recent release really focuses on the AI document assistant, where you saw me use a couple of use cases there. We do a lot. We provided some enhancements for markdown responses. You may not have remembered, but when I asked for training materials, it had bolds and it had indents. That's really kind of a markdown formatting. So we supported that because a lot of our customers were taking that content and they wanted to paste it right into a document. We allow you to do both bulk freezes and unfreezes, particularly as it relates to integration right within Oracle Records Management. A really powerful part of ControlCenter is you can do bulk metadata updating. A lot of customers that run WebCenter over time, a department might change, a title might change, and it provides built-in capabilities to just update metadata and remap that to new departments, to new titles, et cetera. There was some more advanced watermarking rules, so you could have a dynamic watermark based on the release date or based on the step. It's certified for WebCenter 14C, and it also integrates with Fishbowl's latest document automation 5.3. Right? So we'll close out the ControlCenter piece. Now, the critical transition here is the key driver with ControlCenter is you now, as an organization, have a trusted set of data. And some of this ties into the hallucination from one perspective, and the fact that you now can point it to a grouping or what we call a collection of content that you know and trust. So we'll really start just a little bit with what Gen AI is all about. I mean, most people know, but from a content standpoint, that's what we really focus on. We'll cover a little bit about that. We'll cover a little bit about the capabilities, and then we'll cover a little bit on the use case and answer the question that was presented. Okay. So I'm assuming most people are already doing something with AI. I don't see in front of me the survey, but most people are either getting asked about it or doing something with it. Probably 75% of the customers we work with have tried to do their own little POCs or have tried to work with one of the partners to build a POC, but they've struggled to get out a POC on the content side, primarily because they don't have a content management life cycle to keep the content up to date. They'll go take a collection of content and put it in a repository once, but then they don't have a way and a governance to keep it updated. But it's really converting the organizations. One organization we're working with through a lot of enablement that we've done. The pilot team has been saving 7.5 hours a week for their knowledge workers. So that's a 20% productivity gain. So that, if you think about, if it's a $100,000 employee and you just said 20K per person, 20% savings, I mean, the numbers can be staggering for what the payback can be. I will just preface this with, as we've been doing content for 30 years, 25 years, and as we've deployed multiple solutions, Fishbowl does have a number of offerings. So I'll be focusing mostly on the one with the just built-in WebCenter, but we have a lot of customers that have multiple sources and want to go ahead and use multiple content sources as part of the RAG process. So we can support that. So the whole thing with RAG for everyone, and what it stands for is retrieval augmented generation. And the big driver for organizations to use this is the big LLMs out there are all trained on public, data on the internet. Okay, that's great, but no one has information from your specific organization, your specific procedures to know what to do. So retrieval augmented generation is all about taking your content that you have security on and that is only available to people that you've given permissions to, and using that as part of the either semantic search capability or the generative AI capabilities. So And then the other thing I always set is some people get confused between Gen AI. Generative AI is really generating content, but a foundation to do Gen AI is you need to create some embeddings to do semantic search. Okay? So I'll show you the challenge people have had in deploying it is this is a very common architecture for most companies, which requires a lot of work, a lot of time, and a lot of ongoing maintenance, where you'll go ahead and you'll take your content and you'll grab a set of files, 50 to 100 or a couple hundred files, and you'll put it in an object storage. Then what has to happen to do this is you have to then chunk those documents. So you basically break the documents down into chunks. You take those chunks and they go to an LLM provider, whatever LLM provider you want, whether on-premise or in the cloud. And that converts that text to numbers, which are also called embeddings, and they then just get stored in a database. Okay. So that's the upfront process that has to happen. That is, requires a pipeline and it's complicated to manage and maintain. Then you get on the serving side or the access side, and now you have a user. So a big challenge for many customers we worked with is how do they make sure the permissions of the user align with the source content? So that's the first thing you have to worry about, because you don't want anyone to access content they don't have, to either through semantic search or for generating responses. Then the user asks the questions. That text in the question goes to the LLM provider, gets included as part of the semantic search. Those results get ranked, and then the information comes back. So it's a multi-step, complicated process if you're going to kind of custom build. What we've built, which you saw earlier in the demonstration, is a fully integrated enterprise RAG solution that not only works on a single document, but can work across your whole repository or can work across collections within your repository. So, if I go ahead and now switch to that, so I will go to the old interface. So if I go to the old interface and I go click on my generative AI configuration, it'll get bigger. So the first thing, as we talked about in that flow, you have to do is you have to go ahead and configure a vector store. So we support multiple vector stores, okay? But we've been doing a lot with Oracle 26 AI now, sorry, because it supports embeddings. So it will do all the embeddings, so you don't have to pay an LLM provider to create the embeddings. So the first thing is create a vector store. Then you go configure any number of LLM providers. And I mentioned this during the demo, but for example, if I want to analyze my operating procedures, I might use a more robust model to go ahead and do more logic and more reasoning. If I'm doing a simple HR question, I might use a very low-cost, fast response AI model. So we allow you to configure multiple LLMs. Then this is where you go create the collections. Okay, so in here, I can go ahead, and some of this will also tie into how do you reduce hallucination. Because in this case, I'm only going to find content that are, in this case, contracts. So anything that's a contract or related. I want to go ahead and create an extraction. I want to go, I can decide how I want to break it down by sentence or paragraph, and it'll go take that information and store it into the vector database. Okay. There's other things I can do. So we give people a lot of capabilities to get fine-tuned and to really configure it themselves. So now that I've got a contract assistant, if I go ahead and come in here, now I'll configure a specific assistant. So now in this case, I'm going to say, here's my contract assistant. So I said, here's the contract assistant. I'm going to have it point to this collection of information, and I want to enforce document security. Okay. So now when I'm interacting with this, if I don't have permissions to the source content, I will not see it. Okay. We also have the ability to allow anonymous access. So many of our customers, none of their users interact with WebCenter directly. So this allows them to go ahead and deploy a kind of an enterprise RAG approach with someone not needing to access WebCenter. Okay. I have some other capabilities in here as far as where I want it to show up. I can include, in part of the hallucination piece, is seeing where the source data is. So first thing is, don't show it. Second thing is, to give people confidence, show the references that were used to go ahead and generate it. So we include the references and we can show the links for where the information is done. And then here we can go ahead and now have, for a contract assistant, I can have some system prompts. So in this case, I'm going to say, list any names and contract amounts, list the key dates, summarize the terms, and do all of that. We also allow you to use the metadata. So if you have a well-structured and curated repository, the metadata can add a lot of enrichment in a reducing hallucination and driving a more effective response. So we allow you to use your metadata if you want. We allow you to set up some pre-prompts and some assists. And we can also do hybrid search. So a number of customers we work with are, have documents or procedures that are very numerical. Well, numbers do not embed well because there's not a lot of relevance to them. So in those situations, you need to use a hybrid search, of which Oracle's 23 AI, 26 AI supports. You can then integrate a request for show me, operating procedure 1, 2, 3, 4. That would be able to pull that numerical number and include that as a hybrid result in bringing the results back. Okay. So now you'll see, and I'll just show you this as an example. So this is the contract assistant, and it asks for very specific information. I will also show the policies and procedures assistant, where I did the same thing, gave it some information, but in this case, I didn't give it a system prompt, so I'm letting the LLM use all of its reasoning for it. Okay, so from that standpoint now, I can go ahead and come into the environment, and I can go say, let me go look at my contract assistant. And again, for most organizations, they would put this on a different interface. All of this is fully API enabled. So this service call and this assistant has a unique identifier. So you can, again, put it on a different page, do what you want. In this case, I'll just say, what contracts have a value over $100,000? So now what's happening is it's taking my request and it's now saying I can't do it. So maybe it's another issue with Open AI. So in any case, I've done it before, so I'll just grab a previous item in the history. So here was an example I did yesterday, and it says, what contracts are over $100,000? If you recall, when I went ahead and had a system prompt, I said, identify the contractor, identify the amounts, identify some details, some effective dates. So now with a lot of companies we're working with, they don't know when their contracts expire and what their liabilities are. This allows them to easily go ahead and do that. Additionally, I could go inside of ControlCenter separately, and I could do on here, I could do the AI assistant for policies and procedures. So in this case, I could now say, how to operate an aerial lift. And now this is grabbing the information from the aerial lift and pulling that information back. And just giving me a summary. Again, because I didn't prompt it with a system prompt, it is using what the LLM wanted for its results. Right? And last, I could also go ahead and do it here, because here's just a different interface. So from this interface, I could say, I'm doing the policies and procedures. And this one will pull the information back. And because of the LLM, this one I'm using OpenAI, it goes ahead and it responds differently than the Cohere LLM. And you then have the ability to go ahead and link to those files, search on those files, and then also have validation on those files. So that's the end of that demo. Okay. I'll have Carissa come over and we can ask any questions.
Yeah, so at our customers' companies, what role is typically setting up those assistants and creating the prompts? And what role do we typically see in charge of the LLM models or authorizing which ones can be used in making those decisions?
Yeah. So generally, we'll have a subject matter expert or kind of a business analyst who knows how to manage that. Our goal was to try to make it so you don't need a data scientist to do that. Some organizations have them, but generally our goal was to try to make it so that you wouldn't need to have a data scientist to do it. So generally it's someone with some business acumen. And generally for the first one or two assistants, we work in conjunction with the customer to help enable them to get going. The second point on that is the LLMs are changing, virtually monthly. So some organizations we work with have people on the staff that will go ahead and evaluate the new LLMs. But some of our customers just don't have the time to do that. They just want the business impact of it. And so we will actually have part of a managed service where we'll go ahead on a monthly or quarterly basis. We'll do some baselining and then optimize for the newer LLMs.
Perfect. If there's any other questions, feel free to pop them in the Q&A at the bottom of your screen.
Okay. So in summary, hopefully you got a sense of the criticality of having controlled documents, both for your operating and compliance needs, but also for managing knowledge. And getting that in place, you then have a trusted, curated set of content that you can use to go ahead and rapidly deploy generative AI or a generative AI RAG process for your organization. We've had tremendous success taking customers from proofs of concept to production in as little as 30 days. And we also oftentimes will take sets of customers' content, either from their website or that they provide through a non-disclosure, and we'll actually go ahead and run through a little POC so you can actually see this in action. And we would be happy to do that with you. So there's a final poll up. If you can take a minute to fill that out, we would greatly appreciate that. Fishbowl is always very focused on collaborating with our customers and brainstorming and innovating with you. So feel free to reach out to the email on the screen, or if you have a dedicated rep, do that. Or if you're from Oracle, also do the same thing. With that, there's no more questions. We'll give you all 3 minutes back. Have an amazing day. Thank you very much.